Okay, section 8.3, a military society. Your essential question of how did Japan develop their military society? All right, here you have your vocabulary. This is going to be a homework assignment for you guys. We have Daimyo, samurai, figurehead, shogun, and bushido. You're going to use your textbook or the glossary in the back of your textbook. And there's also information in these notes to help you with the meaning, and then you'll embed an image. So let's get started. Samurai and shogun take over Japan. So life in Japan was very different outside of Heian. Remember how the nobles, they wanted to surround themselves by beauty and not really see Japan as it really was, which is actually very impoverished. So outside of the city of Heian, it was a very different place. The nobles would fight each other over land. Remember that land was very hard to come by. There wasn't a lot of Japan that was actually farmable and usable land. So the nobles fought each other over the land, and eventually some of the peasants and the farmers rebelled against the imperial officials trying to get their own land as well. Because of all of this destruction, a lot of the land was destroyed during the fighting, so peasants weren't even able to grow some food because the farms were actually destroyed during this time. Japan's rulers didn't see the problem because they were too focused on their court life. So remember that they were staying within the city limits, they were surrounding themselves by beauty, they weren't really paying attention to what was really happening in Japan. The rise and the fall of the samurai. So we are going to spend quite a bit of time talking specifically about the samurai, and you will actually have a samurai project towards the end of the week. So the Daimyo were the large landowners, and they decided they needed to protect their lands. In class, we'll go over the power pyramid. The Daimyo are kind of towards the middle. They're very large landowners, so they are also very rich. So they do have quite a bit of power. They hired samurai to protect their property. So these were hired soldiers. Samurai wore very light armor. Remember that it's very hot and humid on the island. So you can see here, it's not like armor that you see from anywhere else in the world. They fought with swords and bows, and they usually came from noble families. So these are sons of the noble hierarchy. These are actually sons from those families that would be trained to be soldiers. The word samurai translated means to serve. Samurai were very loyal to their lords. They would do anything that the lords asked them to do. When they took their oath to become a samurai, one of the code of the samurai is loyalty. So they would be very loyal to the nobles and to their daimyo, to their lords. Armies were very expensive because the daimyo would pay for housing and feeding the samurai. Lords would pay the samurai with land, but only the most powerful samurai, so the general of the armies, they would be paid with land and food instead of money. The land was very, very valuable. And those samurais would hire peasants to work the land, and that's how they made money. So the shogun are the next group of people we're going to talk about. So the shogun were clans who went to war over the right to rule Japan against the government. So the Minamoto clan was actually very powerful army, won over the government and took over. However, the leader of the clan still wanted to rule Japan, but keep the emperor as a figurehead. The reason being is because the people had to have someone to come to, had to have somebody to look up to. And not only that, you want to keep somebody almost as the symbol to Japan. And then if they were in fact invaded at some point, then when invaded, they would go towards the emperor, not necessarily the shoguns or the clans. They would always go for whoever the leader was. So in name and in face, the emperor was still in the palace in charge, but it was really the shogun telling him what to do in the background, almost like the emperor was like a little puppet. In 1192, the Minamoto leader took the title of shogun, who is a general who ruled in the emperor's place. So he was the actual ruler, making all of the decisions, all of the rules, all of the laws, but basically telling the emperor how to rule Japan. And for the next 700 years, a shogun would rule Japan. Ooh, too far. So the samurais lived very honorably. They were held in very high society with social privileges. Some of the privileges are that they were treated with a lot of respect. People would often bow to them when they were going down the street. If they were treated with disrespect, they were often killed. Restrictions were they could not attend theaters. It was seen beneath them. They're paid soldiers. They're not paid to be entertained. They're paid to protect. And they were not allowed to take part in any trade or commerce. The Bushido is the code of the samurai, and the Bushido means the way of the warrior. So I'm going to show you on the next screen exactly what the Bushido is. So men and women of samurai families learned to fight, but only the men could go to war. But the women were taught to fight because the women had to stay behind to protect their homes when the men actually did go to war. The samurai lived very simple and disciplined lives. They adopted Zen Buddhism that helped them with self-discipline and meditation. We went over this in an earlier section of Japan. The samurai must obey and honor their lord. If for some reason they cannot fulfill their bushido, their code, they cannot do everything that their lord asked them to do, the samurai were expected to commit suicide rather than live in shame. So if they were not able to uphold what they were asked to do, it was considered very, very shameful. Some did try to escape to the mainland, to Korea or to China, but they were very unsuccessful. Many of them, if captured, were killed anyways, so it was just seen as the honorable thing to do to commit suicide if you were not able to, for some reason, fulfill your duties. So this is the Bushido. Everybody will get a copy of this as well because you'll be using this in the Samurai Project later in the week. So the 7 virtues of Bushido are integrity, respect, heroic courage, honor, compassion, honesty and sincerity, and duty and loyalty. Below these, there's also explanations of what each one are to give you an idea of what the full code of the samurai, the Bushido, is. On the test, you will need to know the English versions of these words. You do not need to memorize Japanese. So just make sure on this section of notes, you're also filling it in for English. You're going to need to know the English versions of these. Okay, so there is the foreign invasion when the Mongols invade Japan. We've talked about this before, where the Mongols tried to invade 2 times, and both times they were very unsuccessful. So on this map, you can see they tried to attack 7 years apart. They tried to come in from Korea. They tried to come up past China, and they were unsuccessful both times. You're going to read this section and take notes on it. There's a video about the Mongols invade Japan. We will watch this video in class for you to take notes. Okay, internal rebellion. This one actually got cut off a little bit. So the internal rebellion, I'm going to keep it small because it gets cut off. The internal rebellion, the emperor fought the shogun for his control back. So the emperor wanted to not just be the figurehead, but he actually wanted to help control Japan again. So he fought to get it back. The daimyo fought against the shogun to control their land. So everyone is literally fighting against each other. And rebellions broke out all over Japan. By the 1400s, the shoguns lost control, and the emperor still did not have much power, and the daimyo ruled most of Japan. So the chain of command in Japan and the rulers of Japan changed quite often. Each daimyo ended up controlling their own small territory of land and create their own laws and collect their own taxes. There was no central government power in Japan at this time. It was very disaggregated. Everybody controlled their own little portion. Everybody controlled their own territory. Everyone was making different laws, collecting taxes differently, finding trade differently. Everything was so very different everywhere you went. So it was very, very disconnected, very similar to the disunion of China when they broke into many rival dynasties. It's the same idea in Japan at this time. So strong leaders take over Japan. So you're going to read page 217 in your book and take notes. Make sure you include one note about unification and one note about isolation when you take notes on this section. And then as usual, you're going to expand your notes. Once you read each of those sections, make sure you fill in the notes for the missing parts, underline vocabulary, highlight main ideas, create questions for each section, and then answer the essential question in your summary. There is a Samurai one-pager that you are going to do as well. And the Samurai one-pager, I have examples on the wall in the classroom, and then I also have examples here. And what you guys are going to do is to take notes. There's a Google Doc on Google Classroom that'll show up later in the week, and you're going to take notes on these 6 things from the textbook, from the video, from your notes, and then you're going to create a poster using that information to describe what the samurai were and different aspects of the samurai. So here are 2 student examples, and then I have more on the wall as well that you're more than welcome to take a look at. But this is what it's going to end up looking like. It's going to be an actual physical poster, not a digital presentation. So it's not going to be a digital poster. It'll be actually handmade, and won't be due until next week. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed learning about the samurai. I hope you all have a great day.